Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, the mid-career professional podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz. Along with me, as always, is my esteemed colleague, friend, and brother, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Dave.
We'd like to welcome all of our viewers and listeners back to another episode. If this is your first time, welcome. We hope you enjoy it, and if you're returning, thank you for your support. So we'll get right into this podcast. This podcast for this week, we're going to discuss mission alignment, and this kind of pairs off of last week's topic, which was understanding your impact. So we're going to take that thought process and extend it a little bit further to mission alignment. So, Dr. Joe, why don't you lead us in with what your thoughts are on mission alignment, why it's important?
All right. So, like Dave just said, understanding your impact is where we were last week, and so that helped us to understand how what you do, affect others. Off to a good start, but yeah, just understanding how what you do affects others around you, whether it's personal or professional. And so, along that line of alignment, we think about mission alignment. So if we think in terms of if you're on a team and you have an objective, the organization has a common objective, is your part of it aligned with that mission to get that objective completed or achieved? And so that's why it's important to understand how what you do impacts others. And so I think this is a challenge for a lot of organizations that have not really flowed, save like at the top, there may be a goal or a mission that the organization is trying to achieve. I think one of the challenges is those groups that fall under that main objective or mission don't really understand how they align. So it's really difficult for those people who are, say, building the widget, understanding how that impacts the bottom line and make sure or making sure that they're aligned with whatever that mission is. So, for example, if you're assigned you start with a new organization and you come in with, these ideas of, hey, I want to do the best. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that is, again, going to align with the mission. But you go into your new department and you ask them, so why do we do this this particular task this way? And if that person you're asking or that organization or that team you're asking can't explain that, then you're probably going to have problem understanding what if you're aligned with that mission. So it really helps to define why you're doing what you're doing if you're aligned to the mission, because you could be doing something, but it doesn't contribute in any way to the mission. And your department and your division, it may be aligned with that, but if that is not aligned under the overall mission, then you're not necessarily contributing in an effective way. Like I say, you may be doing something that's uh, gaining or benefiting, but it may not be in alignment with what that final mission statement is. And if we even think about in terms of personal, and I think Dave brought this up before we jumped on air, but even if you have your own personal mission, of getting fit or anything like that, are you aligned if you say you want to lose weight, but every morning you buy a box of donuts and finish those donuts before before lunch, and then say, "Hey, I'm going to get fit." So again, I
Hey, you
know that's
need you
kind
need the energy, Joe. You need the
of
energy.
that's true, and that's fine if you're gonna go to the gym for 3 hours and work that off. But if you could come home and just watch binge on TV series and things like that, then you're definitely not aligned to your mission. So I'm going to let Dave talk. Look like he was going to jump in there.
Yeah, so that's a great start, Joe. I mean, you covered a lot of ground and a lot of important pieces of understanding how you contribute to mission alignment. And you mentioned early on that it's important for leaders to understand how they contribute to the overall mission, because you might have multiple organizations and with the company, and then within those organizations you have multiple departments and then multiple teams, and it's just a layered effect. And at each level, that at that level, they need to understand how they contribute to the overall mission. Because, like you said, you might be doing something great, but if it's not contributing to the bottom line, then it's non value added. And basically, you're just creating busy work, you know? So, understanding why the widget makers are aligned with that their own team and for the overall success of the mission for the company is important. And within that would be, for example, the aspect of quality. You might be making 100 widgets a day, but if 10% of them are failing, that's not aligned well with the overall mission because that's a lot of waste. So maybe you only do 70 widgets a day, but 100% of them pass. So and we talked about this last week a little bit. Everyone contributes to the mission or should be contributing to the mission, from janitorial services to administrative support. They all contribute toward the mission, but are they doing it effectively enough? Is there a lot of um, downtime or a lot of just wandering around? One of my favorite tools from back in the day, with lean, referring to Lean Six Sigma or Lean, or the spaghetti charts, because you could follow people move around the plant and how misaligned the flow was. So contributing to that mission would mean understanding how do we make that flow even better instead of looking like a bowl of spaghetti, just a nice clean line on the assembly line. That's efficiency, and that contributes to the mission. So I'm going to take this from a different perspective. Let's say you make widgets, but you're in the finance department. Well, I don't care about those widgets because I'm finance. I need to understand the reports for the numbers. Well, yes, you do, because those widgets are impacting your financial numbers, and your financial numbers are impacting the business. And if you're not gathering the right metrics, then it's just a waste of time. I worked for a company and they had some nice KPIs, key performance indicators, and then they had this of the six, there was another one. It was like a seventh or eighth bucket that was just for everything else that was left over. And it's like, why are you letting this number of all this other stuff affect the other performance indicators? Either get rid of them, don't do them, or put them in the right buckets. That's contributing to the mission alignment. You have to be aligned with your key metrics and how they affect the bottom line and the goal, the overall mission. So I'm going to pause there.
No, no, you brought up a really good point as far as someone like in a finance role at a manufacturing facility, and them again, their main focus is okay. I've got to make sure the books align, and if that's all they do, like you said, they could be missing out on opportunities. So have they actually taken a look at if I purchase this many number of widgets? How many of them are actually good? We may be buying them at a reduced rate. There may be a reason why we're buying them at a reduced rate. So you're doing your job of getting, say, paying for this item that's going to be used in building, but at the same time, this material that's being used is not compliant. So going back to that example where you said we might make 100 widgets a day, but we failed 20, is and we've come to find out that because of the person that's supplying that material is inferior as far as their quality. So even though your books are aligned because all the zeros and decimals match, but is it affecting the bottom line as far as getting the actual product or the widget out the door?
Mm-hmm.
So again, even not understanding how what you do, or your job or your role impacts the other part of the business, and that's kind of a simple example. But I'm sure there's other areas out there that like you said, not tied directly to building the widget, that play some type of role or play some type of function that doesn't contribute directly to building that widget, but they're still part of that spaghetti chart
Right.
that goes directly to mission complete or mission alignment.
Right. And HR is another good example because if they're not bringing in the right people, or they believe they're bringing in the right people, but they're not actually understanding what those potential employees are bringing to the table, maybe they have blinders on because that's all they've been doing, is the old process. Generationally, we've changed significantly over the last 20 years, and what uh, potential candidates bring to the table. And instead of calculating things by hand back in the pre 2000s, we've got software that does it. Well, now we don't have software that does it. We have apps that do it. All we got to do is say, do this, and it will do it for us. So understanding how these different minds and these different talents contribute, and how some people can be multifaceted and contribute to a company instead of just pigeonholing them. Oh, they're an engineer. All they can do is engineering. Well, maybe they taught college for 20 years before they became an engineer, and they have an awesome capability to train people. So understanding what your talent brings, that's just another example. Another example could be um, compliance. A lot of companies, they do compliance, but are they really doing it the way they should? Because compliance it's one of those non-value added but necessary things. You have to be in
Right.
compliance with different laws and regulations, and there's a right way to do it, and then there's a not right way to do it. You can make it look right on the books, or you can
Right.
actually go out and audit the company in the different areas to make sure that they're compliant. So when you are audited or inspected, you don't fall short.
No, I think that kind of goes back to the example you had, as far as finance, that they could be making sure their numbers align, but are they actually paying attention to how they're aligning? Like I say, if they're purchasing items that are not good, yeah, your dollars and might match up, but are you looking at the other side of how much quality, how bad our quality is because of those materials? So it's kind of the same thing. Everything all is aligned in your world, but how does it affect everything else around you? Are you paying attention to that?
And another area is policies and procedures. They're there for a reason, and understanding the impacts that they have among with how they intertwine and cross-referencing, that can create a lot of havoc when it comes to the mission. Because if you say your team says, well, all employees shall do this, and my team is like, well, if we do that, it's going to wreck our system, or it's going to create delays.
Right.
Does my team really need to do what your team is saying everybody needs to do,
Right.
or is it just
Right.
your team needs to do this because it fits into that picture to where you align with the overall mission, not you and your team or your department? Because my contribution might be significantly different, and by requiring my team to do something that's non-value added will negatively impact the mission. It's going to create delays. It's going to create morale issues potentially.
Right.
There's always the almighty dollar sign, the bottom line that's going to be affected when you make other organizations do something that doesn't help them align with the mission. That makes
Well,
sense.
and it does, and that goes back to one of the things we said in previous episode is the whole idea that when you're making decisions, especially something as far as mission alignment, are all the right people in the room? Do you have everybody represented that should be there to point out some of these things that you just identified? This affects your organization or your department, but this is how it affects us. So we might need to alter that or consider these things as we're making that decision. And I sat through a strategy session years ago with the leadership team, and that's what they did. They brought all the leaders together, and that was the discussion. So if we do this, how does this impact your part of your organization? Are you going to be able to, uphold this mission, and are you going to be able to comply to it, or is it going to cause you to do things that you normally wouldn't do, or that contradict the things that
Right.
you need to do? So I
Or
think
that is
that's
outside of your
also
scope.
absolutely. So I think that's the other important part of this is that the right people are in the room to raise a hand if they see something that doesn't help them or assist them, it may be a detriment to them. So that's why it's important for that.
Yeah, and when you say the right people in the room, I believe what you're really referring to is those people that have the capacity and authority to provide
Right.
the right input
Right.
and
Yep.
actually be able to assert that versus just someone there taking notes
Right.
and
Yep. Yep.
nodding their head. You know,
Yep.
it's they you have to have the people in there that have the capacity, authority, and the knowledge to make and contribute to those overall decisions because they
Yeah.
will impact. And saying nothing is actually a negative impact on your mission statement.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the clarification because you're right. It could be, and I've seen that too, that some people are, someone can't make it, a leader can't make it. They'll just say, hey, just go fill in for me. But you're right. They don't have the same authority or ability to, uh, you know, say something or to be listened to. So, yeah, thanks for that clarification because you're right. It has to be the right people.
Yeah, and you and I talk about this a lot offline. Leadership and organizational development, individual development is our passion. And so, just to clarify for our audience, so Dr. Joe, I think you know what time it is.
Yeah, I think it's time for our weekly challenge. So, again, for the weekly challenge this week, the question is, or your challenge is to review your mission and identify at least one objective that aligns with the mission. So, again, I'll restate it. Review your mission and identify at least one objective that aligns with the mission. And as we kind of talked about, that will help you understand where you fit in whatever that mission is, whether it's personal or professional. And so remember to assist you with this, we have our journal, fillable PDF out there that you can add all these challenges, and hopefully you're doing that to see how you pan out on this journey. We also have a couple of other tools that'll assist you. We have the assessment, and then we'll have a further analysis if you want to use that as well. So those things are all available to you free of cost. Hopefully, you're taking advantage.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me about that, Joe. Sometimes I forget that we have these cool tools out there. So, what are your final thoughts regarding mission alignment? What kind of nugget do you want to leave our viewers and listeners with?
Well, look, again, I think it goes in hand with what we talked about last week, just understanding your impact, and not just you personally, but your team, the things you do, the things that people close to you, whether it's personal or professional, understanding those impacts. And then once you kind of understand that and have a better understanding of that, then you can see if what you're doing is aligned to the mission or if it's not aligned. I think that will help people understand the importance of what they do because Dave said it. Everyone contributes in their own way, and it takes you've heard this probably a million times. It takes a village, and literally that's what it does. Even with an organization, it takes a village of people doing different things to meet that mission. So just you understanding why you're doing what you're doing, I think you'll have a better appreciation for what your role is and how it impacts that mission.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to summarize our discussion this week. So, with that, we'd like to thank all of our viewers and listeners for joining us again on another episode and supporting us on this podcast. Um, if you enjoyed it, like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. More people we have listening, the more that we can change the world, if you will. So, yeah, until next time, I want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.